Hey there, beautiful people. How are you? It's about to be Father's Day. And when Father's Day is coming up, it's a perfect opportunity for us to take a moment to pause and to reach out and extend our appreciation to all the awesome dads out there, right? There's so many awesome dads out there. And one of my unexpected gifts of midwifery is that I found a deep and profound respect for men, which, to be perfectly honest, prior to being a midwife, I didn't have that deep and profound respect for men. I actually kind of just wanted to avoid them and really avoid them. But now I want to stand here in presence and acknowledge and say how much I appreciate you for all the ways that you're showing up in our lives, right? And so this whole episode of Apothecary Wisdom is to acknowledge and express gratitude for the men in our lives, to come up with and explore some ways that we can improve our communication so that we can be on the same page, and to see about how you can include and incorporate your partner with you while you're pregnant and while you're giving birth and in your postpartum. So this is really to celebrate Father's Day, and it's to really help you prepare for your birth and your postpartum and have effective communication. And if this is the first time we're meeting, my name is Maria Chaudhry, and I'm a midwife, an herbalist, and the creator of Birth Song Botanicals. And we make nourishing herbal remedies for women's health and pregnancy, birth, postpartum, breastfeeding, and for family wellness. And you can learn more about us, our products, our blogs, our SoundCloud, our YouTube channel on our website at birthsongbotanicals.com. And I gotta say it, we are so close to getting subscribers on our YouTube channel, so go ahead and like and subscribe. Do it now, okay? But I want to start off by talking about effective communication, because we're going to honor dads here, and we're going to say how much we appreciate them. And in order to do that, we can just use our words, but we also need to live our life in a way that shows appreciation, that we meet each other's needs. And so there is a book. It's a very simple, easy to read book, popular. You might have already know about it. It's called The 5 Love Languages. It's written by Dr. Gary Chapman. And essentially, this book comes from the premise that here you are, you're in a committed relationship, you both want to be in this relationship, and you're trying, you're giving your attention, you feel like you're doing everything, right? You feel like you're doing things around the house, you feel like you're giving gifts, you feel like you're being sweet, but for whatever reason, your partner is just not being fulfilled, and what you felt so full and juicy and great in the beginning is now feeling really drained and distant and depleted and confusing, and you're not quite sure why. So the premise is you might be speaking 2 different languages. Like, for example, if one person is speaking English and then the other person is speaking Spanish, you might not really understand their message. For me personally, if my partner was speaking Spanish, I would get most of it. I'd be like, okay, I kind of understand most of what you're saying. But if they were speaking something like Chinese or some other foreign language, I'd be like, what? Over your head, you're just missing each other completely. And so the 5 love languages essentially are these. The first one is quality time, right? And so this is your love language if you want to just spend time with your partner. You just want to hang out with them. You want to do a project together. You really love it when there's not the phone, there's not the TV, there's no distractions, you have eye contact. It really hurts your feelings when you get interrupted, or when you're not allowed to ask questions or carry on your conversation. So that's your love language if those are things that are really important to you. And then the next love language is acts of service. Now, acts of service is doing things around the house, doing chores, maybe taking your other kids, running errands, cooking food, building something, like maybe building garden beds for you or something. The key to acts of service is not that they're running around doing stuff, because that's always special and good, but it's that they're doing something that they know you want them to do, or that they know is hard for you to do, and you know you need to get it done, but you're not able to do it, and so they're going to do it for you. They're going to take time out of their schedule to do something special for you. That's what makes acts of service so important. And then the next one is words of affirmation. So words of affirmation is your love language if you like hearing, hey, I appreciate you. Or, you know what I really like about you? Or, you know, one of your best qualities? Or, when you did that the other day, I really noticed that and it stood out. Or, I'm grateful for you. Or, I love you. Or, I think you're beautiful. Or, oh, you're so hot. Or whatever your language, you like hearing that, then that's probably your love language. Or, and if you don't hear that for a long time and you start to like wonder and look about it, that might be what's missing. The next one, we're on number 4 now, is gifts. And so these are like surprise gifts, right? And sure, there's like your Christmas gifts and your birthday gifts, and those are there and those are special, but especially when there's surprises and you didn't anticipate what they were going to be, right? Most often for the gifts, it doesn't really matter how much it costs, right? What really matters is the thought behind the gift. It's that you went out of your way and something made them think of you, and then they went out of their way to get it for you. So it's the thought behind the gift that's actually truly the gift. And then the last one is physical touch. And physical touch can be sexual and sensual, but it can also just be more playful, like simple things like holding hands when you're out in public, or cuddling, or kisses, or rubbing your neck, or rubbing your back, or patting your shoulder. Essentially, it's that you just want to be in physical contact with your partner most of the time. And so as I'm describing these love languages to you, which one is your love language? Right? So put it in the comments what your love language is. And think about it. So think about, like, okay, if you're not sure, when your partner does one of these things for you, which one of those things really stands out and you feel it in your heart, like, oh, I really appreciate that you did that for me, right? And if you're not sure what it is, there's a quiz. And you can go to the5lovelanguages.com and take this quiz. And it's actually a pretty insightful little quiz. They ask you multiple questions in different ways. And it kind of gives you a percentage of what's your primary love language. And I personally think our love languages evolve and change a little bit as we go. But essentially, we all want our partners to do all these things. Do stuff around the house. Do stuff around the house. Tell me I'm cute. Give me a gift every once in a while. My birthday's coming up. And hang out with me. And what's the other one? Yeah, rub my back. Let me hug you for a second. Like, yeah, we all want that. But there's got to be something that stands out above those things, right? And so that's your primary love language. And so then when it comes to your partner, it's really important of 2 things I want to say. One is that how we express our love, like how we give our love, is often not the way that we want to receive the love. So for example, a person like me, I give gifts all the time. Like I'm like, ooh, what can I get for you? I want a little gift, or I'm thinking of you, I want to give you a gift. So that's not necessarily the love language that I want, right? My original love language was always do something for me, because when I first did this test, it was when I was a busy midwife and had a young child and was at home, and so overwhelmed with home life, work life, and so anytime you could do anything for me that meant I didn't have to do it, like cook or clean or do something that I didn't have to do, that meant you loved me. And so now I think more my love language is more just like spend quality time and listen, and please don't interrupt me and let me finish my thought. That's it. I think that's pretty important to me. But then your partner, you can't just assume you know your partner's love language, because what your partner's doing for you might not be the way that they want to be loved either. So don't assume, ask them. And if they're willing to take the test with them, and you do it together and analyze your results. Because why am I even bringing this up, right? I'm bringing this up because the rest of this video is going to be acknowledging and appreciating our partners, but it's also preparing you while you're pregnant to help you have effective communication during your pregnancy, and so that you can have the birth experience that you want, so that you can have a smooth postpartum recovery and you can have a happy family, right? And so knowing each other's love language is vital, because I get it. If you're pregnant right now, or you just pushed out a baby, you're thinking to me like, hey Maria, I'm pretty maxed out. I'm overwhelmed. Every day, my body is changing, my identity's changing, the work I do in the world is changing, my perceptions are changing constantly. I am maxed out physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and I don't have time to coddle my grown-ass adult husband to like make sure all his needs are met, because I'm depleted, right? So that's exactly why I'm talking about it, is because you don't have the time or the energy, and he doesn't have the time or the energy to be fighting and to be wasting your time trying to do it, but just being ineffective. And so I'm talking about this so that you can have the most, lack of a better word, efficient and direct way to get your needs met, and so that you can meet your partner's needs. Because I don't know if you've noticed yet, all you pregnant women and postpartum and breastfeeding women, like childbirth and childbearing is an endurance race. It is not for the faint of heart, and it is in it for the long haul. And actually, you're going to need to have these communication skills and be loved and supported and have your needs met to avoid conflict, because what's going to happen is everyone's going to be tired and hungry and overwhelmed and stressed. And really, you're in this you're in this really special time of your life right now. You're in this archetypical time that is so special, like you in your fullest radiance as a pregnant woman, and him in his fullest radiance as your partner. You are the empress, right? And he's the emperor. The empress is like the embodiment of Mother Earth. Just that plump, full, juicy, fertile, full of life and love, and fully capable of growing a baby and nursing a baby and taking good care of yourself and having projects and plants and gardens and art and music and friendship and having a relationship with your partner that you can communicate with. Like, that's the time that you're in. You're in this empress place right now, and it's so special. Right? And then he's the emperor, right? And so this emperor is strong and capable of providing and protecting and loving. But the difference is the empress is a communicator, and she can communicate with her community and her friends, and she finds power and strength in the earth, and she finds power and strength in her self-knowing and loving and in her family. And he does too, but he's not going to admit it as much. And he's not going to look for outside influence and outside interpretations, right? He's not really open, and he's not really going to be that open to softness, right? Because that might be weakness, right? But what he is open to, and what he adores, and what he wants more than anything is the love of the empress. He wants her attention, he wants her touch, he wants her in all the ways, right? And so he may be closed off to a lot of things, and he might be trying to succeed in life, and he's going to turn and look to her. So you two fill each other and match each other in such important ways. So enjoy this empress time, and rather than be the depleted old, I'm washed out and tired and overwhelmed, stand in your radiance. And by understanding each other's love language, it's going to help you stand in that radiance. Okay, so how do we include our partners in pregnancy? You have to remember that to do this, especially when you're first finding out you're pregnant, and especially if it's your first baby, that these are ongoing, evolving conversations, and that your first conversation and the thoughts that you have in the beginning are not going to be the thoughts that you have later at the end when you have more information and more understanding. All right? So it's important that you didn't just have the conversation, talked about it before. It's this like continuously ongoing conversation about your birth and about parenting and about your relationship and about who you are and what you're building together, because this is an investment, and like, what are you going to put into your investment so you can have this experience that you want. And so as a midwife, I would always offer free 1-hour consultations to the potential clients. The thing is, the partner had to come. I didn't just meet with the woman. I met with both of them, right? And this is why. Because if you're going to want his support and his understanding, especially, I'm a home birth midwife, so a lot of women are like, I want a water birth in my backyard, or I want a water birth in my living room, and like, that's way left field for him. He's never even heard of that. So his first thought is, no! Right? And so then you're already conflicting. And so he needs to be involved in the decision making and meeting the midwife. And why it's so important is men and women have very different questions when it comes to preparing for childbirth. For example, the women, these are generalizations, the women would come in, have their list, and they would want to know, can I have a water birth? Are there any natural remedies that can make it go better? Is there any like natural remedies that might help me with the pain? Essentially, who's going to be at the birth? Can I have a photographer? Can I have a doula? Do I like you? Do I trust you? That's what they want to know. Do I like you? Do I trust you? Can I have a water birth? He's like, all right, what's the plan? Okay, so what are the supplies I need? Okay, so what are you going to do when there's a problem? And sometimes he's specific. What are you going to do when there's a cord around the neck? What are you going to do if she bleeds? What hospital are you going to go to? Then he wants to know, how much is this going to cost? Right? So those are really different. Is my insurance going to cover this? Those are really different questions. They're all super important questions. And when you put all those questions together, then you make a really wise decision on who can help you and if this birth plan that you're creating is realistic for your life. Okay, and that same thing comes along when you're making decisions about who your doula is going to be. Have him be at the consultations. Since this is so important, I created 2 resources for you to help you. They are in the description below. You can download them. One of them is a list of 50 questions that you can be asking your potential midwife or OBGYN. And the other one is 25 questions you can be asking your doula. So you download them and you 2 talk together beforehand, before your appointment, and then when you go to your appointment, your consultation, that midwife is probably going to be like, you're a perfect client. I would love to work with you. You're like the exact client I want to work with, right? Because you know what you want, you're already communicating, and you have realistic questions. Okay, so let's see other ways to include dads in prenatal care and in your pregnancy. In terms of prenatal visits, you know, some dads come to every visit and some dads can't make it because of work schedule. That's totally understandable. There are a few prenatal visits that are pretty kind of key visits that are really good to bring dads to, and that is the first time you hear the baby, like when you're ready to hear the baby with the Doppler, if you're going to have an ultrasound, and then your 36-week home visit. And actually your 36-week home visit, in my practice, that was a non-negotiable. Like, he had to be there because we were getting ready as a team. So we'd oftentimes have meetings in the evening or in the night after work so that we could have our time together. And the rest of the prenatal visits, they can come or not come. That's not so essential. That's more between the 2 of you. But here is the thing about expectations with your partner. Like, yes, they're into your pregnancy and they're into you and they're into the baby and they're into all this stuff just like you are, but they are not going to read that stack of books that you have beside the bed. They are not going to watch every YouTube video, right? They're just not going to do it. They're just not going to, they're just not going to be able to do it. So if there's one book to have him read, and you're like, okay, just one thing, read this one thing for me, I would say to read this book. It's called Natural Childbirth, The Bradley Way, because it has really accurate information, and it's really in alignment with the woman that wants a biological birth, that wants a natural birth, that wants her partner to be intimately involved, and that they are doing this together as a unit. This book is not hundreds and hundreds of pages, and it's like precise and coming from what I would say a midwifery, wholesome biological birth perspective. So if you're going to give them one book, let it be that one. And now the next way to get dads really involved in your pregnancy and to really be prepared to help you, support you for the birth that you want to have, is childbirth classes. And I'll admit, childbirth classes, the dads don't want to come because they're tired and it's on Saturday or it's in nighttime and you might have other kids at home and it's a hassle. But childbirth class, at least my class, was tailored just for the dads, because I have so many visits with the moms. I know she's going to read the book, she's going to watch the video, she's going to do it, but the dads are not going to. So this is what I did. This is how you can have an effective childbirth class. Well, you make it be a potluck. So you feed him. You give him a big, beautiful plate of food. You watch videos of these gorgeous pregnant women naked giving birth. And then you line them out and you say, look, these are all the things you need to know. And you just line them out really clear, and then you send them home. He's like, ding. At the end of the day, they were the ones that resisted and didn't want to be there, and they were tired and overwhelmed. But over and over and over and over again, it was the dads that would come up to me afterwards saying, thank you for helping me be so prepared, helping me know what to do, what to say at the birth, and know what to do when the baby got here. I didn't know any of that. I didn't even know what I needed to know until the childbirth class. So the childbirth class is of paramount for your dads. And so I want to also, since this is Father's Day, we're going to talk about a Father's Day gift, and then we'll start talking about how to include dads in the birth and postpartum. Okay, so this is Father's Day, and this is a win-win situation, right? You're going to give him a gift, right? This is a gift that you need because you're pregnant, and this is a gift that he needs because you're pregnant. So you need chlorophyll because you're pregnant, because when you are growing your baby, you're going through this process called blood volume expansion, and when you go through blood volume expansion, you go through this process which makes it you become anemic. And the women that are anemic have the highest chances of hemorrhaging postpartum. So chlorophyll helps you not be anemic, and when you're not anemic, it helps you prevent hemorrhaging, which is always a good thing. Also, chlorophyll is one of your primary must-have herbs to help you recover postpartum. So, because you just had an immense amount of blood loss, and now you need to recover and not be depleted, tired old hag lady. You're the empress, right? And so you need to be standing in your fullness. Chlorophyll helps you stand in your fullness. He needs it too, because he needs to stand in his radiance and fullness, and he needs to have his blood oxygenated, and he needs the endurance to keep up with you, because now you have this long honeydew list, plus his work, plus his stuff, and he needs to keep up with all the stress of it, right? So, if his love language is gifts, well then give it to him. If his love language is acts of service, then make some for you and make some for him. I should have gotten a spoon. I need a spoon. Make some for him. And then, if his love language is quality time, then sit down together and share a cup of chlorophyll. And if his love language is words of affirmation, tell him how much you love him and appreciate him and how much you want the best for him to be his best, most radiant health as possible. And if his love language is physical touch, even though he just drank this big old green glass of chlorophyll, reach over there, give him a sweet kiss, right? And then when he stands up, pat his butt, and then go on about your day, right? That's chlorophyll. So the link is in the description so you can get that. All right? So now let's talk about how to include your partner in your birth. And like childbirth class is set up to go through all the micro details of all the ways he can be there for you. I'm not going to do that in this video, but I am going to talk about a few things I think are important. If you want your partner to be fully present with you at your birth, he has to be prepared for it. And how do I say this? What I want to say is birth is often thought of as women's work. And a lot of times women want a lot of women around them in labor. And if there are a lot of women around him, and he's in a room full of women doing something that's historically in the women's sphere, he's out of place, right? And especially if there's one particular woman in the room, which is your mom. Your mom might be the absolute best person to be at your birth, and she might not be the best person to be at your birth, because here's why. Your mom knows you, and she loves you, and she knows how to help you feel better, and she knows what you like to eat, and she knows how to take care of you. And in her nature, she'll naturally go and do those things, and that's sweet and loving. She does not have, most of the time, does not have the intention of boxing your partner out. However, if she's doing those things for you, then he cannot do those things for you. If she's sitting beside you, or cooking for you, or being there for you, then he can't, right? And it's his opportunity to show you that he can do it, right? When you're in birth, this is like an extraordinary time that's unprecedented, that the two of you have never experienced before, where you can learn to look at each other and rely on each other and trust each other in the most profound ways, right? This is an opportunity not to be missed for establishing a deep, committed relationship. So, also, another reason why you want your partner to be by your side and not your mother is because at, 6 weeks, 8 weeks postpartum, your mom's probably not going to be there anymore, and then at 2 o'clock in the morning, when the baby wakes up and crying, it's not going to be your mom to help you change the diaper. It's going to be him, right? And so he needs to be prepared for his new role. And so that's one of the big ways. And another important way that you can help your partner help you be with you in labor, it comes back down to knowing your love language again. If you know that you are a person that needs physical touch, then teach him and show him how to rub your back before labor starts. If you know that your love language is words of affirmation, then print out a page of birth affirmations for him to read to you while you're in labor. And if you know that your love language is to just not talk but just be here with me, then tell him that, and so that and get a little stool so he can sit there right beside the water birth pool and sit there and be with you and hold space for you and the baby, right? And so at a home birth, there are so many ways that the dads can be as involved as they want to be or not. And at every home birth, I always offer this to them, that the dads can catch the baby, they can help cut the cord, they can do all the things. They can wipe your face, give you the drink, hold the puke bucket if they want. They can do it all. And so when it comes to catching the baby, it's not like, oh, okay, here comes the baby, go catch the baby. That's not what we say. We say something more like, hey, here comes the baby. Here, do you see this? Put your hand with my hand. You feel that? Put your hand with my, oh, you feel that? All right, don't push too hard, soften. And now their hand, we're doing this together. And sometimes it's appropriate for me to keep my hands there, and sometimes I let go. And the dad catches the baby, right? And it's really beautiful if they want to do that. There's no pressure to do that, but they're prepared to do that if they want to do it. And they can clamp and cut the cord and do all that. But also, once the baby's here, we have this pause, we have this time where we rest and we allow the placenta to come on its own and the baby to acclimate and get the baby to the breast and so start nursing. And so the papa's right there snuggled up, like the three of them are together. We're getting them together as a family to snuggle up and nurse, right? And so, but another way that he can really be involved is to take his shirt off and get skin to skin and wrap the baby on his chest and wrap up in a blanket when it's his turn to hold the baby. That'll help regulate the temperature and it'll help with bonding. And then another way, as a midwife, we'd always pull the dads in is after the herb bath and we're tucking everybody into bed, we're doing our final checks, we'll have the dad put the diaper on the baby and dress the baby for the first time. And it is so cute because they're like, new dads especially, they're like, delicately, like, oh, so cute, trying to get the arm through the sleeve, which if you don't know, it's kind of hard to do, and get the onesie over the baby's head, or awkwardly snap the snaps that are all confusing, and the diaper's a little bit like loose, but it's just a wonderful initiation into their new role, and it's loving and really real supportive. And so that's a loving, wonderful way to include dads, is to get the baby dressed for the first time. Okay, so now it's postpartum, what to do. And there's just so many ways, because postpartum just goes on and on and on and on and on. So there's so many ways to include dads. But I want to just say that immediately postpartum, honor the dads too. The dad just became a dad, or maybe just became a dad to this baby, or it's their first time. They have just been through this immense experience where they went through labor with you. They saw you work really hard. They saw a baby be born. Maybe they caught the baby, maybe not. But they're just like you need your family to bring you food, and you need to rest, and you need to snuggle. He needs that too. And he needs the opportunity to ask him, what was your experience like? Let him share his birth story and his birth experience, because most oftentimes that doesn't happen, and it's him that's catering to you, and people don't even ask him how he's doing. They just go straight to the baby. And it's true, and it's really heartbreaking. So make sure he's a part of that brand new baby moon cocoon, right? And then once you're nursing, and if you're not exclusively breastfeeding, of course you can bring the papa in a lot of different ways. But if you're exclusively breastfeeding and you're not doing bottles or pacifiers, then your papa's got this whole other superpower that you don't have, right? It's his presence. His presence in labor and birth was so important, and now his presence with the baby is so important. And so he may not have boobs and he can't nurse the baby, but he can swaddle the baby and calm the baby and burp the baby and bathe the baby and change the diaper and co-sleep with the baby, and he can put the baby in the sling. And there's so many ways that he can be included and involved postpartum that you don't have to pump and put it in a bottle for him to feed. That's up to you if you want to do that. That's not necessary. I will say that as the newness of postpartum wears off and he has to go back to work, and you're recovering but you're not all the way recovered, and everyone's tired and stressed out, this is the prime time for most conflicts to happen. This is when couples fight the most, right? And so, knowing his love language, if you just know the one thing he needs, right? Just the one thing, just trying to make that happen. And if he knows the one thing you need above all else, if he can just try to make that happen, that's going to help with a lot of your fighting. And one other just pro tip is just make sure that there's food when he comes home. And if there's not food, you text him and be like, hey baby, swing by and pick up some chicken sandwiches. Don't have him come home and there not be food. You're gonna fight. Wars are fought over that. World wars are fought over hunger and not getting your needs met, right? And so, pro tip. So let's start to wrap this up. And I want to extend my heartfelt appreciation to all the dads out there that are showing up and they're loving their partners and they're caring about communication and they want to be present for the birth and they want to be good dads, right? And I want to also say to you, thank you for raising healthy children. And thank you for your capacity to love and to protect and to create and to offer. And also I want to acknowledge, because there's always something deeper and wider here in every conversation, is that this is Father's Day, right? So we have fathers, right? So I've been kind of talking about our partners, but we have fathers, and so we want to acknowledge them. But also we have to acknowledge that we might need to forgive our fathers for either the ways that they were there with us or the ways that they didn't show up for us when we needed them. And so in Mother's Day we do this. We acknowledge our mother and our grandmother and their grandmother. And so what we're acknowledging right now with our partners is that he's learning how to be the partner to you based on your communication. But he's also coming to this relationship being raised by his dad and his dad's dad, right? And there's a lot of history and baggage there, right? And they may not have really been in these open communication, loving relationships, right? And so there's a lot of history that needs to be cleared and forgiven and released and expressed and softened there. And it's our generation. We're the empress, right? You're the empress. You're the one that can do it, right? And so there's no pressure. It's just the acknowledgement of, we're saying Happy Father's Day to your partner, but to your father, but to your father's father and father's father. And just, I do want to wrap this up with forgiveness. That's really important, especially if you're going to move forward as a happy, healthy family. So I hope you enjoy your chlorophyll and get your copies of the 50 questions for your midwife, and get your chlorophyll, and push like and subscribe on this video. And until next time, my friends, drink deep and always walk in beauty.